Hi guys, in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make scrambled tofu. Probably one of the first tofu recipes I ever made. I'm Middle Eastern, I'm originally Arab, so tofu is not an ingredient that we use ever in our cuisine or our cooking. But since I became plant-based, I started to experiment with tofu and other ingredients that I never used to haven't even tried or get close to. And today is story time, so I'm actually going to talk to you about my journey with a plant-based diet. While I make the recipe, I'm gonna also chat with you and just tell you about why I became plant-based, what happened, my journey, why did I do it, all the different kind of things that I experienced from family and friends and society, and the cocktail of an experience that I have had on this journey. It's not just about the food, it's so much more than that. I'm gonna first start by pressing my tofu. So for the tofu, ideally you wanna buy organic tofu if you can. It's just healthier, okay? I'm gonna first start by pressing my tofu. I'm using firm tofu, but it's even better to use extra firm tofu. So the type of tofu you use does make a difference. So I would recommend that you use extra firm tofu or firm tofu is okay. Otherwise, it's a bit too soft and mushy. You can use a tofu presser like this one, which I bought online on Amazon, which I can link in the description. Or if you don't have a tofu presser, all you have to do is wrap it in a towel and then place a heavy pot on top of it and allow it to press that way. You can even add something heavy inside the pot. So we've got our tofu, okay, we're gonna press that for a bit of time. Why did I become plant-based? Actually, mid of July 21st, and I remember the date very clearly. Was it 21st or 27th? But it was July. Anyways, July 2020, mid of Corona. It was the doom and gloom, and it was very uncertain times. I don't know what was happening in the world. I remember being in lockdown and just feeling really like not great. I was just being super unhealthy with like just my lifestyle and like stress and not sleeping well and so then I decided to redirect my energy and just kind of take the opportunity and the luxury of actually being locked down at home and having the world pause. So like it gave me time to do the things that I actually didn't have time to do. You know, some of us we were safe and sound at home and we had the luxury of time. Anyway, so I found myself support. I read a book that my sister had recommended at the time. It's called How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger, and basically explaining the top 15 causes of death globally and how diet and lifestyle plays a big role. And it was basically saying, you know, a plant-based diet or predominantly a plant-based diet is health promoting. I just loved it. The second half of the book basically talks about how you can implement a plant-based diet in a responsible way to make sure that you get everything that you need nutritionally. So that was my journey into why I became plant-based. I love that sound of the onion when it first like goes in the pan. So that's kind of how I discovered a plant-based diet. And honestly, I haven't looked back since. I feel amazing. I got a boost of energy at the time, and I did shed, you know, some kind of stubborn weight. And most importantly, I did have chronic bloating. I was bloated for years and years and years and years. And as soon as I switched to a plant-based diet, honestly, that all subsided in a matter of time. And that is probably one of the biggest things that I have personally experienced and benefited from being on a plant-based diet. And then I decided to take it a step further, and I got certified as a holistic nutritionist so that I can deepen my knowledge and understanding of a plant-based diet and make sure that I'm doing it responsibly for myself and also my family. Let's talk about the family. So I basically transitioned the kids to a predominantly plant-based diet at home. I never labeled it that way for them. I just happened to make food that is plant-based. I never spoke to them about it. They know that mom eats plant-based. I think it's very important to be careful with how you introduce that to your kids, because the last thing you want to do is basically have them resent it. At the end of the day, my husband is not plant-based, so they see both of us. So I'm very mindful with the words I use when it comes to food. I think the most important thing is the relationship with food. So I make sure that it's not like, I don't label anything as bad or wrong or whatever. And at the end of the day, as they get older, they are more, as all of you parents would know, they have a much bigger say in terms of what they want to eat, in terms of taste, and like some of them are picky eaters, but not just that, like what they're willing to eat. And then I found myself like with a wealth of information, so I started to post healthy recipes online because I wanted to share that with community, and especially I'm based in Dubai, so I wanted to kind of spread that as well among my community. And honestly, I wanted to also make sure that we are also leaders in our respective fields, and it's not just plant-based is not just somewhere in Europe or in the US. Like, we also are up to date with the healthy plant-based diet is, and also having somebody like that from our region, I think was very important for me, because I wanted to play the global game. Really, we're here, we also exist, and we also know what we're talking about. So that was my journey. But what happened then? There were a few things that happened. First of all, like, the amount of comments you get every once in a while about like hate comments is quite interesting. I don't go around challenging people about things that they post about just because I disagree with it. Like, at the end of the day, everybody is free to follow the diet that they follow and that they believe in, and the sources that they rely on. I have the sources that I rely on, which is like nutritionfacts.org is a great source. The World Health Organization, of course. Everybody then becomes like a nutritionist. Everybody's like, oh, but what about protein? Oh, what about I don't know what? And I'm like, I appreciate your concern, but like, first of all, when did you become a nutritionist? First of all. Second of all, do you know anybody that's protein deficient? Really, like, protein deficient is probably like in an older age groups, like very older age groups, or like in less fortunate kind of communities and stuff. But like, have you ever heard of like, you've heard of many people that are vitamin D deficient. Have you ever heard of anybody protein deficient? Nobody. I'm gonna add my green capsicum. Also some friends, like, we'd hear comments criticizing the food and the diet, and it's like, I've never gone around doing that to you, first of all. And then also for the people that were like, for the friends that were criticizing plant-based food is so boring and blah, 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 I was like, actually, you already eat plant-based food, like hummus, which you love, or certain salads, many salads that are plant-based, and you love it. So like, plant-based is not disgusting. Like, just don't say that about food anyway, because like, having food is already a privilege, and we should be grateful for it. And we should never talk like that about food ever. Anyways, another thing was like the social aspect. Like, how do you navigate social setting? Like, what if there's no plant-based food around? What about when you go to restaurants? Okay, so that's something I really want to talk to you about. I didn't, like, initially when I first started, I would like pack some snacks in my bag. We're going to our friend's house, and like, I'll pack some snacks in my bag just in case I didn't have anything for me to eat. That's how it started off. But then over time, two things happened. A lot of my friends were very accommodating and making sure that there are some things for me to have, which I appreciate and respect. And I don't expect anything from anybody. I understand that everybody's busy and doesn't fully understand different dietary needs, but I certainly appreciate it and love it, and I'm thankful for it. Another thing as well that happened was I became more flexible. So I find I find my way around any kind of menu, almost like when at a friend's house or at a restaurant. But I also decided to become more flexible when I'm in situations where there's like limited options, and like, like if something has a bit of dairy, I'm just gonna have it, or like it's a birthday cake, I will have, I'll have it, which contains dairy or eggs. I'm not vegan, but I am plant-based for the health benefits. And so I, even though it was a bit uncomfortable for me in the beginning, I then also realized that was starting to become a source of like really like stress. And like, at the end of the day, like, we're not looking for perfection. We're not looking to become fixated and obsessive about like, about food and stuff. Like, I then started to feel like it's turning into a negative, like something that I really enjoyed and I'm happy about and I'm doing willingly, then was like becoming, taking over, my outing and my thoughts, and like starting to worry about it, and became too much. So I am more flexible when I'm out. So like, obviously I'll go for the plant-based options, but when there are things that might have a bit of dairy, a bit of this and that, like birthday cake, or like something that might have some cheese, I will have it. At the end of the day, just to be clear, there is a difference between a plant-based diet and veganism. Like, for you to be vegan is for you to not do it for the animals or the environment, let's say. But when you're plant-based, you're doing it predominantly for health reasons, even though, of course, the animal aspect and the environment aspect I came to learn more about on my journey. And I do think that we got to be aware of like how our food is coming to our table. And unfortunately, there are many situations that are like, it's just super unethical of how like it's not being done in a most ethical way, and it's really, it's important to become aware of it. And so that became like as extra bonuses for me in terms of trying to staying away from that food. But it wasn't the door I entered the path in. I have to, that's very important for people to understand that on both ends. So like, I think it's very important for people to know what door, you know, you entered, and then also then you learn about the other stuff, and then that's just like amazing, because it's like bonus points where it's aligning even more with your values. Tomato, chopped tomato, you know, and so you can be 100% plant-based, or you can be 90% plant-based, or you can be 80% plant-based, or you can be plant-based, but then on occasions like Thanksgiving, or you're going to your grandma's house and she's made a certain, like, I don't know, chicken pie or something, you know, that you really crave and miss, you can, you know, you can still have it on a plant-based diet. Like, I know it'll be funny to read what comments go in this video, like if anybody that's, you know, hardcore vegan and is against what I'm saying. But I think that's why I started to be more flexible when I'm out, because I think it's super important to be able to sustain this lifetime long term. And I have seen myself, vegans, not even people that are plant-based that are doing it for health reasons, I've seen people that are vegan doing it for the animals and the environment who have walked away from this just because I think they were too strict and obsessive. Not, I'm saying if people want to be 100%, that's good for them. But I'm saying it really took over their life. Like, I know people that really like took crazy measures. I mean, maybe crazy for me, but it wasn't crazy for them at the time. I'm not saying it with judgment, but I'm saying like they took really extreme measures, let's say, even when they travel and the hotels they stay in, and like try and dictate, like, not like asking, requesting certain, like it just became really, became like this big thing. I'm very aware of that. You need to find the balance, and everybody's circumstances, situations is different. Taking out the tofu, the pressed tofu. See the liquid that came out. I was trying to say that I think that's why I think like, oh, the big misconception about a plant-based diet is that you are all or nothing, and everybody's like judgy and is aggressive about the diet. That's not true. Even with vegans, like some vegans might feel super passionate, and there might be like people that are aggressive and the stereotypes that we have seen on social media, all of us have. But the truth is that like many, if not all, if not majority of vegans are actually very kind people. They're not judgy, you know, to each their own, you know, they're not gonna, you know, they don't impose it. They're quite open-minded to understand that many of them also weren't vegan once upon a time. I mean, some are born into veganism, but like the majority are not. To each their own. And, you know, my husband appreciates the health benefits of plant-based diet, but he's not plant-based himself. Like, he will have plant-based food at home, but, you know, he'll eat what, you know, the other stuff as well, order in when we go out, or even at home, if he wants me to cook it, I'll make it for him. So yeah, so it's not about judgment. This is vegetable stock, so I make my homemade vegetable stock paste. I'll link the video below. Guys, you have to try this. It's like a massive batch, super clean ingredients. You get to decide the quality, if you want organic or just fresh vegetables, or even vegetables that are starting to go bad. You can make a batch of vegetable stock, and with the salt and vinegar, it preserves. It stays preserved for like, I don't know, 3 months in the fridge. And then another thing I'm adding is turmeric, which is in it itself is like a powerhouse. So I'm adding turmeric, so that also looks a bit like scrambled eggs. So here's some black pepper. I already added vegetable stock, which has salt in it. And I'm gonna add black salt in a minute. Anyway, in terms of diet, yeah, like, again, like this is the diet I feel comfortable following. It is a diet, it's not a belief system per se, so you can implement it as much as you want, whether you want to go 100%, 90%, 80%, that's, you know, up to you. When I became plant-based, and I left seafood in for a couple of months. So I just love seafood, and that was the last thing I kind of parted ways with. But again, like, there are so many situations where like you're eating when you're in a restaurant, and like the other option is like super creamy, like fatty, super like, you know, carby pasta. That's not healthy either to have for dinner. So like those are definitely moments where like I consider whether I should be having like a grilled fish. So we've got our scrambled tofu, and now I'm gonna be using black salt, which is not black, it's actually pink. This tastes a bit like eggs. It has like an eggy kind of taste. So I like to add it to my scrambled tofu just for like a bit of that taste. And it's also salty, so I haven't added salt. I've got the vegetable stock and the black salt, and then I'll see if I want to add more of that or add a bit more of the salt. So there it is, scrambled tofu. A couple of things worth mentioning. First of all, tofu, awesome ingredients, super high in protein, low in fats, low in calories. If you don't like tofu, okay, one thing you can do is you can use chickpeas. So you can use chickpeas instead of scrambled tofu, so it makes scrambled chickpeas. Super delicious. I've also done that before. The bell peppers are great source of vitamin C. I've literally tried to pack this recipe with a lot of superfoods. So the turmeric with the black pepper, super food. We need to try to incorporate about a quarter teaspoon of turmeric in our diet daily. Anti-inflammatory, just like super powerhouse. Another thing that I'm going to add now, which is black seeds. I'm just going to sprinkle some on top. This guy right here is such another super like powerhouse. It's anti-inflammatory. It helps with reducing blood pressure and helps with heart health and digestion, immunity. And by the way, this is like also an ingredient that's amongst different kind of communities and cultures. I've got some couple of breads here that we can enjoy together. So this is whole wheat sourdough, and then this one is an interesting bread I came across, which is charcoal bread. So taste test. I didn't even taste it before. Maybe it needs, I don't know. Taste test. That's good. And so if you're someone who is already plant-based or wants to eat more plant-based or whatever, vegetarian, whatever you follow, I'll be interested to learn more about you, and do leave a comment below just so that I get to know you a bit more. And if you like the scrambled tofu recipe, or if you have other tips or other of your favorite tofu recipes. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, keep the energy flowing by subscribing to my channel to help create a ripple effect so I can reach more people with my content. I post daily. If you want to upgrade yourself to your 2.0 version of yourself, live healthier and happier lives, then this space is for you. I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.